Mabuhay, Kamustika. Welcome, how are you? This is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea here in the TCC condo in Toril, Davao City, Philippines. Public display of affection is what I want to talk about today on this pro-marriage, pro-Filipina channel that I talk about my experiences anyway with bringing my wife to America, where a lot of people do, but a lot of people are leery of doing such a thing, and so I want to share my experiences, and perhaps it can make you feel more comfortable in doing that. And please subscribe if you're interested in more. Check out some of the other videos if this channel is for you. I certainly would like to see you around and leave comments, and I will try my best to respond to them. Public display of affection. Now, while I was single for 30 years, obviously I had a lot of opportunities to see other people's public display of affection. And it always drove me crazy. In fact, it made me depressed, especially if you go to church and you just want to focus on the sermon and get away from your singleness. I'm trying to make sure this camera is adjusted better. I'll probably mess it up. And then you sit down in church and somebody else comes in front of you and puts their arm right around their wife or their girlfriend, and that kind of ruined my day. So I always wanted public display of affection, and you either like PDA or you don't, and I happen to like it. Many Filipinas, however, consider it indecent and inappropriate. So I was a little unhappy, disappointed when I did talk to my wife about it, and right away, no, I'm not doing that. That's indecent, that's wrong. So I try to ask her why. I'm still not exactly sure. It's just a cultural thing. It's just the way you see it. I try to look around once in a while when we're at the mall where there's a lot of people, and I have to admit I don't see a lot of public display of affection. You might see somebody holding hands, but usually not. And even holding hands I consider public display of affection, although some might not. But when you're married to a Filipina, that's a good starting point if you can get her to hold your hand in public. I guess I like that because it shows other people around us that we have a certain closeness and a certain belonging to each other. So just a cultural thing, and probably the biggest cultural difference that has affected our marriage. Certainly hasn't been a killer or anything like that. My wife works at the same company I do, and we run into each other once in a while. I remember the time early on I tried to give her a hug, or I don't know what I tried to do. It was just something innocent, and there weren't even many people around, and she just freezes up, paralyzed, because she says, that's unprofessional. At work you have to be professional, and this isn't the place for that. Well, who knows? Maybe she's right, but I still would like to do that. I wasn't kissing her or anything like that. Even if we were, that'd be okay with me. But you know what? That's not my wife, and I have to understand that. The Bible says, deal with your wife according to knowledge, which means in an understanding way, or in a considerate way. So if I was to say, no, you gotta give me PDA, that would be being inconsiderate and would just not be a good thing. So here's what we do. She has a rule, my wife does. Her rule is she can show me public display of affection, but I am not allowed to show her public display of affection. So I'll take it. There are times like if we're at a movie or some kind of indoor event, like when we went to Branson, maybe the lights are down, it's a little bit darker, then she might take my hand or something like that, which I like, even though there's an element to me that I want other people to see it, then it's public. So the fact that she does it when there's people around, but they might not be able to see it, is a step forward for her. When we go to church, we sit in the very back, so that the only people who can see it is the pastor and the one person sitting behind us, kind of guarding, the place. And so she's aware of that. I like it. She puts her arm around me. It means a lot. I don't know why. It just does. Makes me feel like we belong, I guess. So there are times when she does. I've noticed when, I guess I wouldn't call this public display of affection, but when we're at home, I can, do things with her, certainly kiss her or rub her back or cheeks or whatever, just innocent stuff like that she might not let me do in public. But when we're here in the Philippines with her family, it's the same way. I can certainly show her affection like this when we're around her family. In fact, last night at People's City Park, she took my hand and we were walking around, and boy, I really like that. So she's obviously more comfortable doing it around people she's familiar with, whether it be people that are not friends or my mother, our small family here, cousin and aunt, or her family in the Philippines. At that point, yeah, she's more about public display of affection. And so I've learned she's got her comfort zones where she feels comfortable doing it. And so that's just simply my recommendation to you, is to not force it and say, well, hon, I need this, I like this, so-and-so over there shows PDA. Well, a Filipina is going to be less likely. If she is, great, good for you. We're all different, with who we marry, and I need to be considerate of my wife and be glad for what I do get from her. It didn't happen right away, but there are times, like I said, she will take my hand and put her arm around my shoulder, things like that, and I really like that. So, after learning about public display of affection from my wife's perspective, I deferred to her feelings. If I do get some, it's a pleasant surprise. At home, however, that's another story. That's called private display of affection. That's even better. So, your Filipino likely won't ever express much PDA, but I'll take what I can get for my love beyond the sea.